Hello and welcome to today's Middle East Report. In this programme today we'll be discussing the battle for truth and how the political tide is turning in Israel's favour in Scotland. Welcome to the programme. In this programme today we're talking about the battle for truth that is taking place regarding Israel in Scotland and how that tide is now turning in Israel's favour. And I'm joined today by Sammy Stein, who is the chairman of Glasgow Friends of Israel. Sammy, welcome back to the Middle East Report. It's about a year ago since you were last.
Thank you very much, Simon. It's a delight to be back and speak with you because a lot has happened since the last time I was here.
Absolutely.
And people need to know about it.
And what's really good is that Glasgow Friends of Israel have just celebrated their first anniversary. So congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And congratulations to everyone involved up in Glasgow, because I know you're all doing a great job.
Well, we didn't think we would survive a year. Certainly many other people didn't think we would survive a year. And in July we had our first birthday with regards to our street stall, which we have in Buchanan Street every Saturday. And we get many people coming by and coming back to speak to us about the truth regarding Israel and the Middle East.
Fantastic. And Sammy, for our viewers that, and maybe even for myself as well, I think you've got such an incredible Jewish heritage that you were born in Tel Aviv in the Mandate years, prior to the re-establishment of the State of Israel in 48. That you're Scottish and yet you're more Israeli than you probably are Scottish. So can you just share with us your unique Jewish heritage and the story of your family, because it is incredible.
When I'm on the stall, I tell people that I was actually born a Palestinian, which surprises lots of people because they think Palestinians are only Arabs. In fact, Palestinians are people who lived in Palestine when it was Palestine. So I was born in 1946. And when I was 2 years old in 1948, I became an Israeli citizen. So I started off as a Palestinian, and when I tell people that, they get very puzzled about how that's possible. So I lived in Israel till I was about 10 years old. In 1957, my parents decided to come to Scotland, and I came with my parents, and I've been in Scotland ever since, except a period when I went back to Israel, and I did my military service in Israel for 5 years. But now I live in Scotland, my family's in Scotland, and I'm, I suppose, half Scottish and half Israeli. Excellent,
which is a great combination. I have to ask you, what are the unique challenges facing Israel up in Scotland, in particular Glasgow, in comparison to, say, different parts of the UK?
Well, Scotland, to some extent, has got its own political differences with regards to the country trying to be independent. And to some extent, that could be an advantage because Israel is a small country. Scotland is a small country. They've got a lot of things in common. And if we can bring some of these common things together, then I think Scotland and Israel can become closer together. So that's the good side. On the bad side, we have a very aggressive and vile organisation called the Scottish Palestinian Solidarity Campaign, who are out there on a regular basis basically demonising Israel and demonising the people of Israel and demonising Jewish people in general. And they, I think, pretend to be anti-Israel, but many of them, I believe, are anti-Semitic.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about them a bit more later in the programme. But like I said in the intro, Glasgow Friends of Israel is now 1 year old, and you're in your second year. Can you tell us the reasons why you established the organisation and the impact it's having on the streets of Glasgow, and also being able to communicate Israel's message of peace to the citizens and visitors of Glasgow?
Firstly, Glasgow Friends of Israel is one of a dozen groups in Scotland called the Friends of Israel, which have been started mainly by Nigel Goodrich, but we just happen to be the largest group in Scotland, and we are to some extent unique because most of the Jewish people in Scotland live in Glasgow. So we have a very balanced group between Jewish people and Christian people, and I think that's one of the strong points that we have. Most of the other groups in Scotland tend to be mainly Christian because there's no Jewish community where they are. And the advantage of having this type of non-denominational group is that when people come to the stall, they say things like, well, I expect you to be a supporter of Israel because you're Jewish. And I say, yeah, I'm Jewish, but Jean over there is not Jewish, and Thomas over there is not Jewish, and Andrew over there is not Jewish, and many of our members are not Jewish, so this is not a Jewish organization. This is an organization of people who have a heart for Israel and love Israel.
And also incredible commitment as well, to actually come out and give up a Saturday to set up your stall, talk to people in the streets, which is not easy, and then just to tell the truth about Israel's situation. So it's an incredible commitment, isn't it, made by you and all the other volunteers.
Well, you know how wonderful the weather is in Glasgow, so it's really quite pleasant to go out on a Saturday and speak to people in the street. But we are there both winter and summer, and over the past 15 months, there have only been about 2 or 3 Saturdays that we haven't been on the street, mainly due to the weather. Even if it's a particularly wet day, we would go out in the rain and we would stay for as long as it's possible to actually speak to people, because the objective is to speak to people in the street. If it's very wet, people do not stop and chat with you, so you have to make a decision. Do I wait for the weather to change and get better, or is it going to be really bad today and we should just shut up shop? So last Saturday, for example, it was a very wet day, but we were there in the street till after 1 o'clock. We spoke to loads of people, but then we decided to give up. But as you said, there is a large group of people that come to the stall, not necessarily every week, but we have a fairly strong group of over 20 to 30 people, and they all come when they can, for as long as they can. And that's quite good because people get a rotation, and people, the public comes back to the stall often to talk to us because they like what they hear, and they get to meet different people, which is also very, very good.
Fantastic. And also you are probably like Sussex Friends of Israel as well, through their counter demonstrations against the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign trying to ban, I think it was the Israeli SodaStream store. And
yes.
they stood there week after week after week, and they developed such a strong bond and friendship between them all that were able to do so much work in terms of advocating for Israel.
Well, we work closely with Sussex Friends of Israel and also the Northwest Friends of Israel. We share a lot of information, we share a lot on the Facebook page, and we try and help each other right across the UK. And when you work together, you get a much better chance of achieving your goal. We don't want to work in isolation. We want to work as much as possible with all the other groups and do what we can to help each other.
Absolutely. But as a Jewish person, Sammy, what does it mean to have such strong Christian support? But to have the Christians coming out, standing with you? And there would have been a period in time where that would have just seemed impossible. But thankfully today, that is now a reality.
It's one of the most heartwarming experiences you can have when you talk to a fellow member of the group who doesn't come at it from the same background as you do. Because what we're trying to show is Israel is not necessarily a Jewish interest. It's an interest for people who love the country, who love what's happening there, and who actually understand what's happening in the Middle East. And they want to tell people about it and talk about it. And they speak from the heart. And that's the difference between what we do and some of the other people on the other side, what they do.
Now, I did attend the International Shalom Festival up in Edinburgh, where I saw you, which was great. But I have to talk about the incredible hostility. Now, I know about the BDS, I know about the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign, but I've got to honestly say that I have never experienced the vile and sadistic nature carried out by the Scottish Palestinian Solidarity Campaign, especially when I was coming up from the main train station and just walking up the road, and then we had to turn in. So before you actually approach the building, you saw a lot of Palestinian flags,
yes.
And then saw a heavy police presence. And then as you walked in, they were kind of shouting shame on you with stuff like, you have Palestinian blood on your tickets, shouting out Palestine will be free from the river to the sea, which effectively means genocide. But what experience have you had in dealing with the SPSC, the Scottish Palestinian Solidarity Campaign?
What I'd like to do is just talk about the Shalom Festival first.
Of course.
I think being in the venue and the concert, we couldn't hear the demonstrations outside. But let's not tell them that, because I don't want them to know that they weren't having any effect on the festival. So as far as they're concerned, they were making this enormous noise, but we were having a great time inside, and we didn't hear anything that they were doing or shouting, which is great. But when you walk by, these are vile, vitriolic, aggressive, arrogant people who do absolutely no good for the Palestinians. Now, you look at these people standing in the street, shouting and screaming through megaphones. What are they doing for the Palestinians when they do that? Absolutely nothing. They're doing nothing to help these people who need as much help as possible. We, on the other hand, when we stand at our stall, we tell people that we support both Israelis and Palestinians, and we would like to see a peace settlement for both people. Now, that is actually taking a positive step to help the Palestinians. They are doing absolutely nothing for Palestinians. They're just pretending to like Palestinians. And the question is, what would these guys do if there was peace tomorrow? What would McNapier do if there was peace tomorrow? He'd be out of a job. He'd have nothing to do. So he doesn't want the conflict to end. He wants to extend the conflict. He wants to make it worse so that he can get up in the morning and hate Israelis and Israel, because that is his job. That is what he does. And he's got absolutely no interest in seeing any peace. And he never mentions peace. He only mentions hate and anti-Israel rhetoric.
So let's have a look now, give you a little bit of a taster if you didn't attend the International Shalom Festival at the Edinburgh Fringe. I was there, and this is what I experienced, and many of you who attended, and I'm so pleased to meet so many of you there, that you tended your support for Israel and also your cultural support for Israel. So let's have a taster now to have a taste of what it was like walking through the crowd regarding the Scottish Palestinian Solidarity Campaign.
Their tickets are covered in Palestinian blood. 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 Their tickets are covered in Palestinian blood.
Your tickets are covered in Palestinian blood.
Sixth-class citizen, that is not equality, that is not enlightened, that is apartheid, and that is a criminal state, and we will not allow anybody to come to Scotland waving their flags, celebrating mass murder of the Palestinians. We're going to be out here all day, and we're not going to rest for a second. Free, free Palestine! Free, free Palestine!
Colonie, ça suffit! Soldats, colons, col, on, le temps des colonies! Ça suffit! Soldats, colons, col, on, le temps des colonies! Ça suffit! Soldats, colons, col, on, le temps des colonies!
This is recorded in Gaza. Please listen. Please listen again to. Please listen again to what these people are celebrating. This is what these creatures are celebrating. Celebrating mass murder, celebrating torture, celebrating an army whose spiritual guide condones the rape of non-Jewish women to just Central Hall are feeling besieged. Well, have we heard that before somewhere? Besieged. Perhaps they might like to find out what it's like to be beneath the Israeli F-16s in Gaza. They might like to find out what it's like to be shot and attacked by jeeps and Merkava tanks on the Gaza border with Israel. They might like to find out what it's like for the fishermen being attacked at sea by Israeli gunships that dotted along the horizon. This is siege. That is a siege of a population that is majority children. The majority of people in Gaza, I was there in Gaza for 2 years, the majority of the people running around are kids with their school bags, and in the meantime, the drones are in the sky above them. In 2014, 500 children were murdered in 50 days by the Israeli killing machine. 500 children. Some of the pictures of those kids are right on here on the front. And when we showed those pictures of the kids that were fallen in Gaza in the bombings in 2014, they were laughing, they were dancing, because they have lost their humanity if they're not seeing what mass murder is up close.
Well, that gives you a little bit of a taster of the kind of vile nature being carried out by the Scottish Palestinian Solidarity Campaign. And walking through that, yes, it was intimidating, but I think they need to get their facts right. And if they truly cared about the Palestinians, then start talking about the Palestinians facing ethnic cleansing in Iraq and the persecution they face by their fellow Arab brothers. And if he wants to talk about Gaza, let's talk about the fact that Gaza is run by a terrorist Islamist regime that's implementing the most extreme form of Sharia law, bringing nothing but oppression on the people of Gaza. And I want to see Gaza free of Hamas. Now, I think that gave our viewers a bit of a taster to the opposition to the International Shalom Festival up in Edinburgh, Sammy. But I think we need to counter a lot of their lies and misinformation, because he didn't put in context the fact that Gaza is run by Hamas, and Hamas in their covenant charter not only call for the destruction of the state of Israel, but for genocide against the Jewish people worldwide. Hamas is responsible for the persecution of Christians, even their fellow Palestinians, as they won the elections, I think, in 2006, 2007, but Fatah, the ruling faction within the Palestinian Authority, was still in control in Gaza until Hamas took over and actually threw their fellow members of Fatah off buildings and mass slaughtered them. So really, blame has to be blamed at Hamas for not building the infrastructure for peace, for not looking after the people, and blaming all their troubles on Israel.
I believe that the SPAC will be watching this video, and they think by you giving them a 5-minute video run, they're getting publicity. But in fact, they are getting publicity, but it's very bad publicity. And I can tell you, I was inside the building and I did not feel besieged. I did not feel worried at all about what they were saying, because I was there to celebrate culture while they were celebrating hate. And that was the big difference between what we were trying to do and what they were trying to do. And most of the things they say, we know are lies. They're moronic, these people. They don't know the history. They don't know what's going on. And they just come out with these stories one after the other, and most of the people just follow them. They have no idea what they're talking about. They get paid a few pounds to stand in the street and shout, and that's why they're there. They're not there because they actually believe in helping the Palestinians. And it's true, the Palestinians have got issues in Gaza. There's no occupation in Gaza. People say, well, what about the occupation in Gaza? There's not one Israeli soldier in Gaza. Israel gave back Gaza in 2005, exactly. And it's been free of Israelis ever since then. And Hamas are the people that govern Gaza. Hamas are the people that kill Palestinians. Hamas are the people that make Palestinians become shields for them when there's any type of conflict with Israel. Hamas are the ones who are doing the Palestinians harm. And when they say free Gaza, my view is free Gaza from Hamas, because they're the people that they have to get out of.
Absolutely. I mean, we also heard some disgusting chants. For example, one of the chants which I found absolutely disgusting was that your tickets have Palestinian blood on it. But the other statement that they were shouting was Palestine will be free from the river to the sea. Now, isn't that effectively calling for genocide? And what's the difference between the Scottish Palestinian Solidarity Campaign's position and that of Hamas, when they're actually effectively calling for genocide and the destruction of the Jewish state. Because if we look at that statement and we see that statement through, where is 5-6 million Israelis supposed to go if you want to say that all of Palestine will encompass all of Israel, what is now Israel, and effectively that is nothing but intent towards aggravated incitement to genocide.
I think the problem is these guys don't actually know what they're talking about. So if they knew what they were saying, they would be saying, yes, let's destroy Israel and hand over all of the land from the river to the sea to the Palestinians. Now, that is never going to happen. Even if there is hopefully a two-state solution one day for the Palestinians, there's no way that Israel is going to disappear. So they're already asking for something that is completely impossible. Not only is it impossible, but they don't actually know what they're talking about. Because when I speak to these people, which I do sometimes, and I say to them, from the river to the sea, well, which sea are you talking about? And they look at me with this puzzlement. Are you talking about the Sea of Galilee? I don't think so. Are you talking about the Red Sea? I'm not sure. Are you talking about the Dead Sea? Oh, I don't know about the Dead Sea. Are you talking about the Mediterranean Sea? They have absolutely no idea which sea they're talking about. And they don't understand the meaning of that phrase, from the river to the sea, which, as you say, is a cry to basically get rid of Israel as a country and destroy all the people that live there.
Also, why is it that the SPC and their English counterpart, the Palestinian Solidarity Campaign, are so silent when it comes to the treatment of Palestinians living in Lebanon, those who are faced like second-class citizens in Jordan, and that's where the real, if you want to talk about apartheid, that's where the real apartheid is, and also the ethnic cleansing also by Palestinians in Iraq as well, and other places in the Middle East where their fellow brothers completely distrust them and they are regarded, if worse than second-class citizens. So why are we not seeing protest outside other Arab embassies if they truly cared about the plight of the Palestinians and the people, rather than just being an organisation that just hates Israel for the sake of it?
Well, the answer to your questions is the question. The reason they're not doing anything about it is because they don't really care about the Palestinians. If they cared about the Palestinians, they will demonstrate against those regimes that do Palestinians most harm, and that is not Israel. So these people are basically anti-Semitic, anti-Israel. They are not pro-Palestinian. They have never been pro-Palestinian. If you look at them, most of them are Scottish. They're not even Palestinians themselves. These are people who've got nothing better to do with the time, and they use their anti-Semitic feelings to stand and shout against Israel. They do not care about the Palestinians. They say nothing about the Palestinians and do nothing for the Palestinians to make them feel better.
So let's have a look at something a little bit more upbeat and a little bit more positive, and this is our own in-house production that we use to help promote the International Shalom Festival at the famous Edinburgh Fringe.
Hello, my name is Howard Conda, the founder of Revelation TV. I want to add my endorsement to the International Shalom Festival at the Edinburgh Fringe. I personally have a passion and a love for music. In the 1960s, I was a drummer with the legendary band the Barratt and many others as well. So I understand when the Israelis want to come and offer their musical talent to audiences around the world, and in particular at this festival. Sadly, these days many Israeli artists and performers face boycotts and discriminations, and with many Palestinian activists obstructing performances and preventing these talented Israeli shows from being shown. Well, thankfully the boycotters have not won this time, and we will see Israeli culture come to the streets of Edinburgh. So I encourage you to attend this festival and give your support, because this is an opportunity to build bridges between Britain and Israel. So make sure that you're there. Thank you.
Friends, I'm so happy to be with you today to celebrate with you Israel's participation at the Edinburgh Fringe. It's really great that Israel is being represented at this important international festival. And Israel has so much to share. Our cultural diversity is unique. We are a country with a rich cultural history, going back to the Book of Books. Do you know that Israel has more universities, more translations, more museums per capita than any other country? We have something to say in Israel, and I'm glad that so many of you are eager to listen. So I want to thank all the organizers of this event. I want to thank you all for being part of that and working with the Embassy of Israel on the content. This is really an important contribution to building a bridge between Israel and the United Kingdom. And ultimately, through greater dialogue, through cultural exchange, we're getting to know each other better and also providing a framework for greater coexistence. And that's an important thing. So I thank once again all of you for being involved in this important event.